Today, we'll discuss how digital transformation is reshaping the home service industry.
The gap was still apparent because usually you have these individualized silos of expertise. You have like marketing agencies.
Definitely, that's such an important shift that you mentioned. Many businesses know that they need to modernize, they realize that.
So I think the first step is try to find a software that is industry specific.
On how small businesses in field service can drive efficiency. Welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast, where we explore the latest trends and innovations that help small businesses thrive. According to a recent survey by the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, 67% of small businesses struggle with digital adoption, citing lack of expertise and high costs as major barriers. However, companies that successfully implement digital transformation strategies see an average revenue increase of 25%. Joining us today is Joe Guevara, founder of Rehash Digital, a company dedicated to helping field service businesses streamline operations, drive efficiency, and improve customer experiences through digital solutions. With over 12 years of experience in sales and marketing for SaaS companies, Joe recognized a major gap in the home and field service industry when it came to choosing and implementing the right digital tools. Today, we'll discuss how digital transformation is reshaping the home service industry, why tailored software solutions matter, and the future of field service management. Let's get started. Welcome to the podcast, Joe. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Great, it's our pleasure. Now, let's start the conversation by addressing how does Rehash Digital, help small businesses in the home service and field service industries. First of all, what is the difference for a layman who is understanding this for the first time, right? And then you can go on and add how Rehash is creating the difference.
Yeah, for sure. So, like you mentioned, I kind of started Rehash with kind of the understanding of this gap in the marketplace that I kind of saw during my decade of experience in the SaaS industry,
Mhm.
where there was that lack of expertise around not just the software, the technology, but across the entire business. And even as I kind of was thinking about starting the business, the gap was still apparent because usually you have these individualized silos of expertise. You have like marketing agencies, you have the accounting agencies,
Right.
and then when they deal with the SaaS companies directly, usually it's very specific to solving a single problem. There wasn't really one that kind of spanned the
It's
entire.
focused on a particular niche.
Exactly.
Right.
But particular niche, a particular portion of the business. And what I
Mhm.
realized through my experience is that by tackling those problems like that,
Mhm.
it becomes a band-aid solution. And as a business tries to scale, those start to kind of fray apart in terms of the process. And then ultimately you get into a situation where you have to do a full revamp of your entire tech stack. So
Right.
that's painful for a lot of small businesses.
Definitely, that's such an important shift that you mentioned. Many businesses know that they need to modernize, they realize that, but they don't know where to start.
Yes.
Right now, one challenge, businesses often face is adopting digital tools, without fully understanding how they integrate into their daily operations because it's also about the mindset shift, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Joe, what are some, common mistakes according to you that businesses make when implementing digital solutions and how can they avoid them?
Yeah. So when I take a lot of new clients on, usually I start off with a free consultation, and usually the approach, like I mentioned, is one of the bigger mistakes is that they
Right.
don't approach it as a business problem. They
Mhm.
approach it as trying to solve these individual problems, and I
Mm.
think that shift in how we service our own clients and how a business can service themselves, especially in the field service industry,
Mm.
is a big part of how they can do this a lot more effectively because the approach that we take is that when we take on a client, we start looking at the business in three parts.
Right.
One is the customer acquisition side,
Mhm.
second is the operation side, and then lastly is the data and the financials. So when they come to me, usually it's under the context of, hey, I'm looking for software, what do you recommend? And more often than not, they don't have the kind of viewpoint of, well, how is this going to impact the field folks out in the, driving the trucks and things like that? How are the customers going to feel going in from, the marketing channels that
It's the
they're
small experiences that
very
change,
tiny,
right?
100%.
Right.
And when you don't have that view, then you're missing out a lot of those gaps, and you're solving for the initial problem that you're trying to get the software for, but you end up creating problems down the road. So the big mistake that kind of comes after that is to try and just keep mandating the situation. So I think the first mistake is not having that foundation and a plan in place on how to do that. The second problem that I see is that when people look at technology, they look at just the technology, and this is one of the things that I was very mindful of establishing as a differentiator for Rehash, is that digital transformation isn't about the technology. If anything, it's the last part of the journey. The first part is understanding your people in the process,
Right.
because once you have a clear understanding across those three silos of what's happening to the people, what are the processes they're touching, that's the only time that you can actually inform what is the right technology solution to be able to solve all those problems, but also prevent problems in the future, especially when a lot of these, field service businesses are looking to scale. And lastly, being able to really have kind of a long-term strategy in place.
Right.
So a lot of people are looking for the solutions like, I have a really bad payroll solution, I need a scheduling and dispatch option. And more often than not, they go into these, software demos and they're like, yeah, it has everything that I need. But then, they're not really able to implement it properly because they don't have that kind of scope across the business. So a lot of the kind of functions across the business just starts off with that foundation,
Right.
and then making sure that you maintain that plan and strategy for both the current state and what the future might look like as well.
That's very well articulated, I must say. It's also about asking yourself the right questions.
Yes.
If your basics are correct, I think everything that you do from there on, it becomes easier,
100%.
right?
Yes.
Choosing the right software solution, it can make or break your company's efficiency.
Mhm.
That brings us to why tailored software solutions matter, especially for small businesses. Digital transformation is not just about adopting new tools, it is about choosing the right solutions that align with your business goals. A well planned digital strategy leads to higher efficiency, better customer experiences, and long term business growth. Now, a survey by Deloitte found that 70% of small businesses using customized software solutions, they reported improved operational efficiency and customer satisfaction
Mhm.
compared to those who were using just generic softwares.
Yeah.
Now, every business has unique needs, right? Yet so many companies struggle with one size fits all, software that does not fully support their operations. Now, why do you think, Joe, customized software is so critical for home and field service businesses?
Yeah, so I see this a lot. So in a lot of the larger companies that come to me, more often than not, they've tried to make do with kind of a generic system, and they've tried to customize it. And that was the appeal of how why they chose those systems in the first place. But especially with my bias being from the software world, I know that there's a lot of talented people creating these softwares, a lot of, people from the industry that,
Right.
create these softwares with the understanding of the industry in mind. So I think, you know, I wouldn't necessarily jump towards fully customized solutions right off the bat, because a lot of these softwares are already tailored to the industry. So I think the
Right.
first step is try to find a software that is industry specific
Right.
and use that as a starting point. Like, does it solve your needs? Because a lot of the times these softwares,
Mm.
so one of the ones I work with very commonly in small business space is Jobber, was built by people that were out in the field and
Mm. So they
creating
had real world in
exactly.
time experience.
And the approach that they took was that they saw the problem that they
Mm.
needed to address for their own business,
Right.
and then now they're expanding it. So instead of having to create and spend the money to solve that problem yourself,
Right.
lean on the experience of a lot of
They
these other
know the
people.
pain points and they're working exactly on that, right? So why not take
Exactly.
advantage of that?
100%.
Hmm.
Now, that might address maybe 80% of the business owners
Right.
out there that are starting off.
Mm.
And that's where the customization comes in, because when I have that conversation about those three silos,
Mm.
that's really where it starts coming out, where some of those existing softwares can't be, a Swiss Army knife for every single business. But the one thing that I realized that, a lot of business owners in any industry kind of miss is that you don't need the software to have everything that you need,
Right.
because in the nature of the software today, a lot of these softwares can integrate with each other, and it kind of fills that gap of being able to have an all-in-one solution. So that's kind of the next step, the kind of customized
You can
approach.
take the best out of everything and integrate into one.
Exactly. Like
Right.
like I always like to use the car analogy for a lot of business owners. Like if you're trying to build, a fully custom car, you're not going to try to build an engine yourself. Like
Right.
you might as well get the best engine you can find and then customize what you need to customize for your business. And that's where we come in on the implementation side, where we say, hey, you can meet 80% of your needs with
Mm.
the software.
Mm.
We can integrate these other systems, create a seamless experience across the board. And we look at that from the acquisition side all the way to the financials. And that boils down to creating that foundation and plan in place so that they can really see, it's like, okay, now I know how my business is going to
Mm.
function and how it's going to scale in the future as well.
A very interesting insight. A lot of small businesses assume that off the shelf solutions, they're going to work for them,
Yeah.
but only to find that they create more inefficiencies in the long run. So, as you correctly mentioned previously, it's about the vision that you have. It's about having a long term vision, not a short term vision, right? Because it might be a hassle for you in the short term, but if you
Mhm.
look at the bigger picture, it's definitely going to like be beneficial for you in the longer run, right?
Yeah.
Now, beyond efficiencies, Joe, how do tailored digital solutions, help businesses improve, customer experience and also customer retention, which is very important?
100%.
What advice would you give to, small businesses who are looking to access, whether they need a custom software solution or an off-the-shelf platform? What is that one advice you'd like to give to them?
So it goes back to that kind of planning, but more deeper than that, it's really understanding what that needs to look like across all of the touch points. So when we do consultations, we do kind of three different aspects of it. There's the lens that you're taking in terms of how you're solving those problems. So first of all, a good chunk of these customers come to me and they say, oh, I need this feature, and this feature. So scheduling, dispatch, invoicing, quoting, great. You have 30 different software that can do that exact same thing.
Mm.
So I always encourage them, let's take a step back and try to focus on like what problem are you actually trying to solve, because a lot of these different softwares solve the same thing but in very different ways.
Mm.
So when you take that lens of the business and start looking at the different touch points, so we usually use what we call three lens methodology, which is what are your back office people
Mhm.
touching in that process, what are your field teams doing in that process, and most
Yeah.
importantly, what is your client doing.
Mm.
It uncovers a ton of your initial assumptions on what the problem is in the business,
Right.
but also expands your ability to think about the entire business end to end.
Mm.
And then at that point you can start looking at what are the possible solutions, because at that point you can actually create very novel solutions, like, hey, I can tackle problems 1, 2, and 3
Mm.
at the same time with a different approach in the software. And once we have that understanding, then that's when we actually go in and say, hey, maybe the all-in-one isn't the best solution because you have
Right.
this need, and this need has a pretty significant impact to your business, versus the complete opposite of that is somebody asks for a feature, it's like, oh, well, I need the all-in-one to have this one
Mm.
feature. And then I would press them, well, what's the impact of your business if you didn't have that? And that's where the wheels start turning, because now that they have a lens of the entire business, like, oh, well, in the grand scheme of things, maybe I don't need that feature
Mm.
and I can do that manually. So it's really having that balanced approach of not just leaning towards, hey, the technology is there to supplement you,
Right.
not to replace the entire business. So yeah, I think a biggest advice there, just to kind of sum up, is really understand the technology problem is, again, centered around the people and the processes,
Right.
and it's up to the business owner, potentially with the help of people in my field, to be able to advise, like, what are the different options out there for that.
That's again great advice. Technology is constantly evolving and staying ahead of trends. It's crucial for long term success. And the sooner you understand that, the better it's going to be for your business.
100%.
That brings us to the future of field service management and what small businesses need to be ready for, what they need to prepare for. We'll be right back with insights on how only 40% of businesses are financially prepared for investment and how proper preparation can maximize your valuation.
Hey, you think you know UPS? Yeah, that's us. Everybody knows that. You know what you didn't know? This. Okay, try to keep up. Ocean, us. Ground, rail, air, so us. Guess who? Us. Customs cleared, borders cleared, done. Us. You still with me? Wait for it. Boom. Us. Intelligent, automated, fulfillment. Us. Yep. Healthcare too. Digital your thing? Yeah. Well, book it, ship it, track it. You feeling me yet? Yep. That's all us. That's all UPS.
At IHG Hotels and Resorts, we're in the business of you.
We're here to help you plug in,
connect and recharge,
make an impression,
and meet with confidence.
With 19 brands built for business,
your business gets even more rewarding.
With an award-winning loyalty program at 6,000 IHG hotels and resorts worldwide.
Welcome back, listeners. Let's dive into the critical steps businesses need to take to become investment ready and avoid missed opportunities. Right now, technology is transforming the way businesses operate from the scratch. What are some emerging trends, according to you, Joe, and especially in field service management, that small businesses should be paying attention to? We're in the beginning of 2025 right now.
Yeah.
By the end of this year, what is the future of this going to look like?
Yeah, and this question's always near and dear to my heart because I started the business with the context that I am a geek at heart. I love the technology
Right.
side, but I pair that with my love for business. So there's usually three trends that I take, and most people would assume that I'm going to say AI right off the bat. I'm actually going to put that third in my list. The first one is I kind of alluded to earlier, which is the integrations part, because I think especially in the field service space, not really, a lot of these business owners don't have a really good sense as to what's possible in terms of integrations, and more capabilities are coming out to really create these customized solutions without having to customize.
Right.
And I think that's going to be a trend that continues, and it's going to lead towards this ecosystem of what I call best of breed, where you'd have specialized systems that are natively built to connect with other systems, and it creates this flexibility for a business owner that says, hey, I'm a field service tech, but or a field service business, and I have a landscaping company as an example, and I need really robust GPS solutions. Again, off-the-shelf software might not have that, but if you decide to say, hey, instead of having to custom build that, let's get a really robust system that has that feature built in, and then connect that with something else. So another, problem that they might run into is like, well, on top of that, I need to connect that with a really robust marketing solution because we're about to, scale, and we have the capacity to expand. So pair that up with a, robust marketing CRM. So usually, like in that scenario, I would create, let them know about something like HubSpot, which is a sales and marketing CRM. Connect that with a field service management solution like Zuper, which I've recently been using and loving, and then connecting that and adapting that implementation to be tailored to exactly what they need. And when I talk about this kind of model to a lot of these business owners, they realize, I didn't realize you can do that. So that leads me to my kind of second point, which is the automation. So it's only once you have this entire kind of connected ecosystem in place that you can really leverage the amount of innovation coming out when it comes to automation. And you need to have those three silos fully interconnected to have the amount of efficiency that you need in any digital kind of transformation project. So, for example, a good chunk of in that scenario, you'd have all of these leads coming in from various channels, from social media, from direct sales teams, word of mouth and referrals that need to flow into your field service management solution. Solutions are out there right now that integrate all of those things together and replace a lot of the manual effort there. And it's a big part of what's kind of evolving right now in the market, where you'd have a lot of these systems that interconnect and automate a lot of those processes. So then the business owner can actually have, a very robust data system for managing their business, which then leads me to the AI, because I think it's only after really understanding those first 2 points of an integrated system or an all-in-one system, and having those things automated, where you can have really clear data in your systems, which is a big gap I've seen in the market. And when I talk about AI to a lot of business owners, the assumption is automatically about like, oh, well, it's ChatGPT, which, I mean, ChatGPT is a great solution. I think that more field service businesses need to leverage it just for ideation and kind of just helping through the thought process about the business.
It helps you brainstorm as well.
100%. And I use it all the time because, I mean, like, it's kind of like that 24/7 employee that you're paying $20 a month for.
Right.
But when it comes to AI in the field service space, I think a lot of the innovation is taking the existing capabilities of like ChatGPT, of DALL-E, and all of these other models and building it into the systems. So, for example, like the all-in-one solution that I mentioned before, Jobber, they have this kind of unified package of how they're developing AI to do two things. One is like an AI agent where they actually have like a fully AI enabled service model where it's almost indistinguishable from an actual person.
Right.
So it's not for every business, because a lot of people still value kind of like
the human connection.
The human connection.
Yeah.
But I think AI is very close to getting there. And the more data and the better the data that's in these systems, the better a lot of these AIs can function. And the second piece is enablement in the back office, which is from an AI perspective, if you have all of this data, typically the common use case is like, well, I need a report on how to make my business more profitable in, the next year. Like, what are the gaps in my business where, my margins might not be the best, or even, how I'm managing the field teams. If the AI has access to that internal data, and obviously privacy and security is a big
part
factor
of
of this. But if you allow it, it has the ability to answer these instead of the alternative, which is, hey, let me, call my accountant and, rehash all of these things to them. And it's still not like a really complete solution. So I think those three things in order are some of the biggest things that I think any field service business or anybody in any industry needs to look out for. Because it's really going to be a competitive differentiator down the road.
Definitely, Joe, this has been an insightful conversation about how small businesses can, leverage digital transformation in the true sense, tailor their software solutions, and prepare for the future. If there's one key takeaway you want small business owners to, remember about embracing digital transformation, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest part is really boiling down back to its roots, which is, regardless of where you are, if you're starting a digital journey and the digital transformation journey, definitely start with a foundation. So have a foundation, have a plan, and understand the business. Because the moment, if you look at digital transformation and you jump straight to the technology, that's where I see a lot of the issues where you'd have to spend, thousands of dollars, revamping and migrating these systems, which, I mean, is great for billables on us because they're going to hire us to do it, but it's not the type of work that I think is necessary or that accelerates a business. So if most businesses just start off and have a clear plan and strategy on, here's what I want my business to look like, and plan for what the future holds, then everything else will follow. Because a lot of the questions that a lot of these clients ask me is kind of self-answered once they have that lens. Because business owners are risk takers. They're not stupid, so they know the context. They just need that structure of being able to do that.
It's the POV that matters, right?
100%. Perspective changes everything, and I mean, a good portion of that, can be accelerated by leveraging, agencies like ours, because we have visibility to a lot of these other, businesses in similar situations or different situations even, and we can kind of ideate different alternatives on how to approach problems. But ultimately, if a business owner has a foundation and a plan, everything else, follows very, very easily when it comes to technology.
Great. That's some fantastic advice right there. Businesses that take a proactive approach to digital transformation today will definitely be, better positioned, especially for long-term success. Joe, it has been a pleasure having you on the podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. Before we let you go, just a quick question. Why the name Rehash?
So part of when I was thinking about my business, Rehash is it kind of captures a lot of the disparate I guess concepts that exist out there. So I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. It's about rehashing like all of the expertise that a lot of people have, and especially with technology, I'm not trying to be the expert for any one silo. I just want to rehash the kind of concepts and rehash people's way of thinking into a new way of creating that new perspective, so that to my own way of thinking philosophy in business to really accelerate that. So I think it just captures what my philosophy about.
It has the right energy and the right vibe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right, all right. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you very much, Gupta.
That was an insightful conversation with Joe Guevara, founder of Rehash Digital, on how small businesses in field service can drive efficiency, improve customer experiences, and prepare for the future through digital transformation. A special thank you to our podcast partners, RBC, UPS, IHG Hotels and Resorts, and Google for their continued support of small business success. For more expert insights and resources, visit CanadianSME.ca and subscribe to our podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode. This was Kripa Anand signing off.